Hey everybody, what is going on? This is Scott Garber back in the saddle of the Profluence Sports podcast, where we are highlighting founders, investors, executives across the sports business landscape. Today, we're excited to go ahead and bring on our next guest, Izell Reese, the CEO of RCX Sports, really pioneering the way that we ingest and participate at the youth sports level. It's not my story to tell, though. So, Izell, welcome to the show. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great, Scott. Appreciate you having me on, man, on such a great topic in youth sports. So definitely my field and where I live, man. So I'm excited to talk with you about it.
I love it. And it's timely, and you've been in this game for a lot longer than most. And, I feel like these are crescendo moments that you build so long for, and then you finally get the platform to go ahead and deliver all of the learnings and expertise, that you've accumulated along the journey. Izell, give the listeners a little context to who you are and, what was that journey for you ultimately leading up to running the ship at RCX?
Yeah. I guess real quick, as far as the journey goes in youth sports and being involved today, it's full circle for me. I played sports growing up, fell in love with sports, definitely put me on the right path as a student athlete, if you will. Walked on in college at UAB, go Blazers, Birmingham, Alabama. And lo and behold, it created a great opportunity for me. Went from a walk-on to a full ride. Ended up getting drafted by the Dallas Cowboys as one of the first players ever drafted from that school. So you start asking yourself, like, man, that's a Cinderella story in itself. And it really propelled me, though, to just, after having a long, successful NFL career, of wanting to stay engaged with youth sports. When I played, relished being a role model, and anytime Cowboys, Broncos, or Bills asked me to sign up for something for, whether the camp or going to the Salvation Army, I was always up for it because it dealt with kids in youth sports, and I knew what kind of impact that had for me. So, that led to RCX Sports, and obviously what I get to do today, working with youth sports, creating youth sports leagues, events, and really driving participation and getting kids involved with youth sports in a major way.
No, it's so cool, man. And I mean, this hits home. This podcast isn't about me, but I share a love for Alabama, as I played down in Mobile. And, it's always neat when we're able to go ahead and marry purpose and impact and create a legacy while we're building it. And, we'll get to that a little later with what you're building in Dothan. But, Izell, it's always so neat when we're able to go ahead and see leaders within sport that actually played and got to experience the ecosystem at each phase. And so it brings a unique perspective when you come in and start building. And so let's go ahead and talk a little bit for the listeners who don't really understand or know what RCX is. Give us sort of the 30,000 foot. What have you guys built over there? And then we'll get down to the nitty gritty.
Yeah. We've been fortunate to team up with multiple pro leagues and now governing bodies. And so we work across 6 different pro leagues, and also USTA being that governing body, and that being NFL, NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, MLS. Hope I'm not leaving anybody out. And it's just been phenomenal. And so we've been tasked as their strategic partner, operating partner, if you will. Most people know a notable one in NFL flag, but, we were able to amass and create NHL Street with NHL, NBA leagues. So leagues, events, sports play at its core. And when I say at its core, we're talking about youth sports, rec league. So a lot of people, when I say rec leagues, the first one that comes to mind, a notable one that's been around and withstood the test of time, is Little League Baseball. Yep. So think that, but branded across pro leagues, and really giving kids that opportunity at the grassroots level and at all ages to participate in that. And then we also do events as well. I mean, we just recently did the NFL Flag Championships. A lot of people saw across ABC and ESPN and Disney, but that was a mission and goal, and just speaks to our work and what we're able to do. And then all that coupled with just being mission aligned with these pro leagues and giving kids the opportunity to play and participate and and have a great experience, but also, being true to our mission and core of RCX. And that's making sure every kid gets that opportunity, so that affordability pieces there, and getting more kids just playing and participating in sport.
Man, it's really neat. And we've watched multiple iterations of what participation will look like. Izell, we're going to dive sort of right into the industry, right? There's a lot of chatter right now. There was a New York Times article around the $40 billion market cap of youth sports, private equity moving in, and at your guys' mission at RCX, at the core, it's inclusivity, safety, and accessibility. How have you guys been able to protect that mission as you see the space continue continuing to evolve and outside players coming in. Is that a well-received mission? Are they trying to iterate on what you guys are doing? What's been that journey, over the last 12 months, as we see the youth sports sort of get the spotlight on it right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a spotlight on anytime you say industry, pick industry, and there's multi-billion dollars involved. Investors will come into the space. And again, I've been in this space a long time. So I've seen organizations come and go. And if I had to say what that does is it can create some great opportunities. I don't want to take anything away from it. But what we're also dealing with, investors are not multi-billion dollar industry or not, is the fact that we're not increasing participation of kids playing sport. That number actually continues to go down, and it's actually adding to it by pricing kids out. While certain experiences are being enhanced, certain kids are being priced out. So we're trying to be at the opposite end of the spectrum and say, why can't you have both? Why can't programs be affordable? Why can't we look at the barriers and look to enhance that and create scale or economies of scale, if you will? And that's what RCX does. So we like to be disruptive in the space, but from a positive manner. And our mission hasn't changed or hasn't wavered. And that's why, I think we've been fortunate to be mission aligned and be the exclusive partner for all these pro leagues that I mentioned earlier, because we are mission aligned and they want to see those value adds. They want to see more kids playing. They want to see more kids multi-sport. So I think the mission of that and how we try to look at the space, and I would hope that a lot of these different organizations from an investor perspective that look to get in this space, get on that side of the fence more so. As well versus pricing more kids out in the travel ball industry or costs keep going up. So I mean that is not our core mission, and nor will it be, especially not on my watch. So and I like what we're doing, and it's working, and it's extremely successful, and we've been able to withstand the test of time and continue to grow and continue to add more kids into the game of youth sports, which is great.
Ultimately, Izell, as a former athlete and someone who builds in this space now, this was the parallel where I was able to learn life's lessons. And, it's very challenging as this matures as an asset class. There's something sacred about this sports ecosystem. And so it's really encouraging to hear the unwavering support that you guys have for this multi-sport participation. Now, let me ask you a question. If I come in as a participant or a parent and my son or daughter's playing in RCX and I come in through football, what does that experience look like getting exposed to NHL Street or NBA or some of these other ones? Are they all interconnected? Do they work in silos? Break that down for us.
They're all interconnected. When we looked at working with multiple sports, my staff hears me say this a lot. I'm big on watch, rinse, and repeat. If you got a good playbook and a good play, you keep running the same play. So these programs, be it NHL Street or NFL Flag, the one common denominator is always going to be there. It's going to be it's going to be a good experience. We're going to teach the kids how to play the sport if they've never played the sports, and it's going to be affordable. So when we look at this and we look across it with the pro leagues and where we're aligning and we offer these new sports, and they are new. So the junior NBA leagues, NHL Street Hockey, MLS Go, these are newer programs, while NFL Flag has been around for 30 years.
Yeah.
But these newer programs, they've come to expect a certain experience. And so whether a kid started with NFL Flag or was playing soccer before, now they got introduced to MLS Go, they know it's going to be affordable. They know it's going to be a good experience. They know they're going to get licensed branded product, which is really cool. So you get to be Atlanta United or be the Cowboys with NFL Flag or Detroit Red Wings for NHL Street. And that in itself, I mean, you go back to just memorable moments. You remember when you played youth sports, but how cool is it when you can now bring that perspective down to a youth, regardless of where they are? This isn't just here in Atlanta and it's for the Falcons. No, it's nationwide. And so we're going into all communities. You referenced Alabama before. Being from Alabama, no pro sports, no pro teams. But we love sports too. And so, giving those kids those opportunities and feeling like, they get to wear some and be like the pros, if you will, is a good experience in itself. But, we want it to be a good experience for everybody. And a lot of what we're able to do, I like to say this is where if I could put Fanatics and Little League Baseball together, this is what come out. So the parents can wear the brands, the coaches, like everybody wants to be a part of these experiences. And that just enhances it. Officials wearing officially certified NFL flag official shirt. So again, just bringing everybody into it, and then also adding to that, again, across all the programs, officials going to get trained. Coaches, you're going to have standardized rule books, marketing collateral, but just really trying to help what we call that local league operator. So that local park and rec or local Y or independent group, we feel as strongly about them as we do working with our partners with the pro leagues. And they're the true partners because they're in every community, rural, affluent, inner city. You have these local organizations that are trying their best and they've been on an island. So that's where we come in as RCX and supporting these local organizations and teaming up with them, and getting behind them and knowing that they got an ally and a partner. And oh, by the way, I'm bringing all the pro leagues and governing bodies with me as well.
Yeah.
That's, I don't want to call it a secret sauce, man, but it's really going back to basics and just thinking about, youth sports and kids playing multiple sports. I mean, I played multiple sports growing up. Didn't affect me. If anything, it had a greater impact on me becoming a professional athlete. So this myth of sports specialization at an early age, I don't believe into it. I don't buy into it. I think kids should experience all sports and get that joy that comes with it and all the characteristics and value adds that come with sports, from teamwork, camaraderie, leadership, you name it, engagement for kids. So I mean, and that's at our core. That's at our core, and that's a lot of where it stems from for us.
No, it's so refreshing to hear. And I believe that, the sports industry has always struggled with this shared service model, right? Like, we've been able to do it really well regionally. We've been able to do it really well within specific sports. It's really encouraging to see the platform that you guys have rolled out, which has the ability to go ahead and unify it and then create access points, right? And I think that's really what's precluded folks, is not only knowing that it's available, but where do I get in, right? And I think leaning into those local leaders instead of bringing outside folks and trying to, helicopter them in, typically provokes a much greater participation rate. And that is really what you guys are doing. Izell, as we continue to watch you guys, RCX has sort of lived by this idea of partnerships, right? So I want to go ahead and give you guys your flowers. Huge news yesterday come in with Pop Warner. Would love for you to touch on, what do these partnerships really look like as you cement them with the NGOs or the professional leagues? And then as you start to go downstream to, more traditional little leagues or Pop Warners, how do you guys support them, and what does ultimately success look like there?
Yeah. I think, partnerships at all levels matter. And it's one of the things you go back to just looking at youth sports in this sector. A lot of groups worked in silos. Like nobody was banding together. And I said, we're missing an opportunity. What happens when we lock arms? And again, especially with the groups that are mission aligned, I think it's a real opportunity. So I'll start at the top. I mean, it is a true alignment across the pro leagues. I mean, and the fact that they chose one group to work with, some of the coolest meetings I sit in is when all the pro leagues are sitting at the table and we're talking about youth sports and how can we make it better. They each are focused on their sports individually and they want to drive and get more kids playing their sport, but they see the value of it. And working together and doing what's good with sport, because they all got the same problem. Less kids are playing sports. And so, here it is, and their voice speaks volumes. When you can go to the pro league level down and their respective teams and their players, both former and active within their sport, and really kind of pour in on that, I think that's where it really matters. And then you start going layers down with partnerships, and we have several. I mean, over the last few years, we've been able to amass a number of partnerships, from Pop Warner, just most recent, which I'm really excited about, and I'll elaborate on it. But then also we partner with YMCAs, Parks and Recs, national level, state level, and specific to the localized Parks and Recs and YMCAs and Boys and Girls Clubs. And that has been critical into, how we work school systems. We work with school systems as well with PE-based programming and so forth. And so just really trying to tap into them and meeting them where they're at and understanding and addressing what it is and the goals and what they're trying to align and how can we sync that up. And in some cases, get the support from the pro leagues to align with that. I mean, we just recently announced MLS Go and NRPA, which is the National Parks and Recs Association partnership to drive more at that level. And so that's us kind of pushing and connecting the dots and these pro leagues saying, where should we put resources, and leaning on us, RCX, to kind of align and manage that relationship and partnership on their behalf. And so that's a huge value add that is it brings value when we can get behind these different groups like that, and these national orgs and nonprofits, and then also working with our independent groups as well. But we strike these partnerships at different levels and we bring them together through the whole ecosystem. And so I think that's been, again, one of the big pluses and values of RCX. We're known as a group of bringing groups together and bridging the gap. Teamwork makes the dream work, as they say. While it may be cliche, it works, is real. And what better place to do that in sports than youth sports?
Absolutely. And it's cliche for a reason, right? Because it does work, right? And I'm a big believer in this idea of abundance, right? And there's enough of this to go around, but also protect the mission, which is creating a safe place for the next generation to develop. I want to touch on one more sort of category of partnerships as we start to really look at youth sports from a commercial lens. I think brands, endemic brands, CPG brands are looking where this is a unique opportunity where you can get the mom and dad, but you can also start to influence Gen Z and Gen Alpha and grow this brand awareness. I saw you guys did something really unique with Downy as the official laundry provider. Speak to that. What are you guys seeing as other folks are jockeying for position in this youth market? Give us a look behind the curtains. Is there a lot of excitement for these brands? How are those conversations going?
Yes, it's a ton of excitement, a lot of buzz, and we're continuing to hear it with brand sponsors, strategic partners. The first thing that comes up is Grassroots, youth sports. How can we be involved? And also, how can we bring value at? I know that's important for us, because, in this space, we don't want to be NASCAR. Here's the mission. Tell us how you can provide and increase the value proposition to any of these entities involved, the local league operator, the coach, the parent, the kid. And for Downey, I think, and we're very excited about that partnership and working with them. It was, the moms, the dads, and those parents, and Downey's brand being able to touch them and leaning in and wanting to bring value add and touching some of these missions. Toyota's another one that's just been a phenomenal partner for us to work with, and it keeps coming. And it's coming from all different levels. While we talk about a Toyota and a Downy, I think, you're going to continue to see more from the apparel brands as well. I mean, we got several that we work with now, and a groundswell of more that just want to kind of be at that grassroots level and also at scale. And I think that's what, of course, we've been able to do with what we're doing at the grassroots level and being aligned with the Pro League brand and also touching that scale. I mean, we're knocking at the door 900,000 kids with NFL flag.
Wow.
So when you say what kind of reach can you do, that's what we're doing. And by having that scale, it allows us, again, to bring value add to these programs. So as they're coming in, this isn't us kind of looking at it from a standpoint of like, okay, yeah, we'll put your brand associated with this. What are you going to pay us? It's more of like, okay, we're going to align with you as a partner. What value add are you going to enhance to help us keep driving and growing participation and keeping this affordable, or bringing more girls into the game and where these barriers exist? That's what we think. It needs to be something that brings more value other than just dollar.
No, it's really neat when you can think about these commercial engines starting to underwrite and offset and really align with the mission and not just come and, try and sell to our ecosystem. Like you said, it creates that collaboration, that partnership that are truly win-win. And I think that the wider the aperture for that, the more brands can participate. And what we've seen, Izell, is that folks want to get down to the national campaigns are tremendous, but how do I get into the community in an organic way?
Right.
And you guys are providing that vehicle. But look, we've touched on a myriad of things here. This one is pressing to me. Obviously you guys are covering multiple sports, but there is a clear path into the Olympics, into 2028. Around flag. With this partnership with Pop Warner, you guys are in a really unique position over the next few years. Talk to us about what that road to the Olympics looks like. How does RCX play a contributing role with the IOC and helping develop talent? Genuinely curious, what that crescendo moment could look like in LA and how you guys participate in it.
Yeah. I think, this path to the Olympics and everything in between, it's all been a lead up. I think it's been a lead up. Obviously, goes without saying the NFL's involvement, IFF, looking at the Olympics. But when I take a step back, you got to look at how do we get there and what does that mean? And I would say, what does it mean is it's one more stepping stone that has legitimized the sport from a global perspective. You think about the Olympics, but as I back down on the legitimacy of it, flag being a collegiate sport for women is huge. So we'll have roughly 100 colleges and universities at varying levels that will offer flag football for women at the collegiate level this year. Ohio just became the 17th state to sanction flag football as a high school sport for girls. And I just, touched on NFL flag with, hitting 900,000 strong this year participating. So you ask yourself what's important in the Olympics and the legitimacy of it. Who's watching when flag football is on? So you got to build a fan base. You got to have aspiring young athletes that say, hey, I could play for my high school one day. I could play for college, and both men and women, I could be an Olympian one day. And just what that does for the sport. And that is what's led to this groundswell, because you're seeing it at all levels. You're seeing a clear pathway of football now for women. And that is a big freaking deal. Olympians,
huge deal,
college,
huge
high
deal.
school, yeah, it's major. And then that Olympic door that opened up, that it's just gonna, what it does is immediately from a global perspective, you got countries now that are preparing. Like they were involved with flag before, but now there's like, no, we got to get serious about it. And it's doing what was happening in the U.S. now on more of a global perspective and creating these pathways and these doors opening and this consistency of play for flag. So, we've had a hand in a lot of that. We worked alongside the NFL in creating flag as a collegiate sport. We're driving force behind and working very closely with NFHS to get more states sanctioned on this road to 50, going back to the NFL commercial at the Super Bowl. We're pushing hard, and we're fortunate. I mean, because RCX is twofold. We have RCX, and then we also have RCX Foundation. And what sits under the foundation is, as much as we believe in our mission, there are kids out there that can't afford affordable. So we have grants in place where a kid can apply for a grant to play NFL flag or play some of our other sports with us. But one other thing that's under there is the Females in Flag Initiative. And that is where we've leaned in to get more women in the game at all levels. So when we worked alongside the NFL to open up these doors for flag to become a collegiate sport, that's part of that Females in Flag Initiative and this constant push for girls to be able to play at high school. And what this did is it's one of our biggest growth sectors on the NFL flag. You have 8-year-old girls believing now, like, hey, sky's the limit for me. I can go to college. I can play for my high school. I want to play this game now. And so what that's done, and then boys continue to play it. And then the Pop Warner relationship, and what that does for flag, and also NFL players getting a chance now to play in the Olympics, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But you see this transitional phase. I saw it with my own son. I got to be his coach when he played flag when he was in the 6th and 7th grade. When he hit 8th grade, he said, Dad, I want to play some tackle now. He played tackle. Now he's going into high school. 9th graders fell in love with the game, and he can still play both if he so chooses. Pop Warner gives us an opportunity to create this transitional phase, if you will, from flag to tackle or both, and also get cheerleaders involved that want to play too. So, it's a great partnership. Really excited about what we can teach in this whole flag to tackle transition program that we're going to get in the think tank together. But having that value add with such a long-standing group in Pop Warner, just really excited about that. And we'll keep the evolution of strategic partnerships like that across all of our sports and continue to go down that path.
Man, I appreciate the insight. It's really cool. You hear about the press releases. It's always neat when you can get behind the curtains and understand the logic and really what success looks like as you guys continued to forge this path, right? It's not like there was a roadmap that you were following. This is all new territory, so it takes ambitious teams like yourself to lead that. Izell, I had the privilege of coming out to Orlando and actually experiencing, an RCX event, and it felt more like a festival than it did a standalone event. One of the things that really caught my eye was the international presence. We had teams from all around the world show up to participate in this flag game. So as we look to the growth and expansion, I'm sure there's heavy plans here domestically, but the game of football is spreading internationally now. How do you guys think about taking the infrastructure that you've developed here and helping grow the game in different regions of the world? Is that on the roadmap, or how do you guys think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I know on the NFL flag and on the RCX, we have the same model in Canada that we started a couple years ago. But the NFL has satellite offices in several other countries. And then NFL teams have marketing rights, if you will. IHMAs is what they call it, in other countries scattered around the globe. And so that gives us the opportunity to utilize the NFL's presence and growing NFL flag. Whenever we do tournaments, we're always welcoming international teams and giving them the opportunity to get that NFL flag experience globally. And that door continues to skyrocket in terms of growth and opportunity there. Again, with this Olympic door opening, but it also gives the NFL and us NFL flag and looking at it from an international perspective, the opportunity to continue to train, develop, and create good experiences on a global scale, like we've been able to do in the U.S., like we've been able to do in Canada, but in other places, and just kind of keep growing the game, if you will, and bringing organizations, in this case, bringing countries, and getting their level of involvement and play on board as well. And in that college experience, I'm just going to go back to that one too, as we talk international for young women. There are several young women coming over to the U.S. now from other countries to play flag and get that academic opportunity to be a student athlete at the collegiate level. So that too has opened up these windows as well as part of that global expansion and that opportunity to come to the U.S. and be a collegiate student athlete like so many other sports have done successfully. We're already starting to see that in its early stages of students coming over and enrolling in college to play flag. It's pretty dope, man. It's pretty exciting and dope to see and just see what's happening in the sport.
Dope is an understatement. And as a girl dad, I have a 3-year-old daughter. To think about the opportunities that are being forged right now for her to participate, for her to think what is normal, right? When I was growing up, girls would go cheerlead, boys would go play football. No longer is that the Venn diagram. It all coexists there in the middle. And I am so grateful for folks like yourself that not only have the vision, but put the shoulder to the plow and create a brighter, better future, not just for my daughter, but for kids that want to participate in sports. Izell, as we turn the corner here, this is a personal question, but as the space is changing so quickly, there's news coming out, there's new players every day. How are you keeping the sword sharp, and where do you go to get your information and make sure that you're aligned from the pros to the youth? I mean, that's a tall task and sometimes probably feels like a full-time job in itself. How do you stay current in the space that's changing so quickly?
Yeah. I think it's kind of how we started in the place. It is changing, but as are we, and we're trying to be disruptive in our own right in the space. So for us, we look at it, competitors, if you will, different groups coming in the space. Look, it's welcome because at the end of the day, it only makes us better. But we continue to look in the mirror at ourselves and how can we get better. Our biggest competitor is looking in the mirror for us and how we think about it. And we're going to stay tried and true to our mission. But what I also do know is our pro leagues and these governing bodies that we continue to work with, they're excited. They want to do more. They understand too what's happening in this space. And I think us being aligned is a strong allegiance and alliance. And we're gonna keep pushing the envelope ourselves. I mean, we're gonna keep growing these sports. As I said before, a lot of our programs are still newer, so there's so much opportunity and bandwidth to do what's right in the sport. And you being a parent yourself, we're gonna keep putting this out here and keep bringing that value. And I would hope that these other groups and investors and different organizations that are getting in the space are aligned with that too. Or, what are you bringing to the space? And are you increasing the value or are you hurting it? Are you pricing more kids out still? Like I would hope, and I hope is, one of the things we always want to do is continue to educate the parents, educate these organizations about what's good with youth sport and what's needed for youth sports, so they can make conscious decisions on, the paths that they take in their kids and their journey, and what they want them to get out of youth sports, which is, Scott, exactly what you and I got out.
That's exactly it, man. And you're echoing our sentiment. Education, access, and support is the recipe to be able to go ahead and not just empower, but equip the generations below us to go ahead and be better than we were, Izell. And that's ultimately the goal in all of this. And so on behalf of Profluence Sports, we thank you and the RCX team for everything you guys are doing. Izell, if any of the listeners are interested in partnering or learning more about, RCX, what's the best way to go ahead and reach out to your team and kick that conversation off?
Yeah, and before I go there, Scott, I just want to say, man, I appreciate you guys' platform, Profluence, and what you all are doing, man. It's a great. I tune in. It's needed. I mean, you're educating the masses and doing it the right way. And so kudos to you guys as well, and what you've done and what you've built with Profluence. Anybody and everybody that wants, and we welcome it, from organizations to strategic partners to every parent out there listening. So rcxsports.com is where you can find all things, and it'll take you down a channel of multiple pro sports and organizations and learn more about us. But rcxsports.com, and come and find out what we're all about. And we welcome it, and we welcome different groups to lock arms with us on this mission of getting more kids playing sport.
Well, it's going to take a village. Please don't be a stranger. Reach out to Izell and his team, and take a page out of their book. Lock arms, and let's all commit to making this sports ecosystem a little bit better than we found it. Izell, thank you again. Look forward to a follow-up on the path to 28, and let's keep building.
Let's keep building. Appreciate it, Scott. Thank you.